Welcome to Time of Death. This video is for informational purposes and in no way meant to glorify or condone violence. In today's video, we'll be discussing the murders of Stephen Robinson, who was shot and killed in the 1500 block of Cochran Avenue in Mid-City, and Eric Lexing and Scott Grant, who were both shot and killed in the 400 block of Stevely Avenue in Baldwin Hills, according to LA County coroner records. Edgar Lopez and Gustavo Guzman were subsequently arrested and charged with the murders. The following is the evidence at trial. Robinson was shot to death on March 9, 2007. Grant and Lexing were shot to death on July 20, 2007. The killings took place near the territory of 18th Street, and the .45 caliber bullets that struck Robinson, Lexing, and Grant were fired from the same handgun. The crimes went unsolved for several years, until an FBI informant within 18th Street recorded a conversation between two members of 18th Street. The government had reasonable suspicion that defendant Guzman was engaged in criminal activity. An FBI agent testified the informant was dispatched with recording equipment by an interagency task force on violent crimes in the course of the investigation on the gang and its connections to the Mexican Mafia, pursuant to the Federal RICO Act. Defendants Guzman and Lopez reminisced about two shootings they had carried out, and they provided enough detail about the crimes and subsequent events to permit the LAPD to determine upon further investigation that Guzman and Lopez were discussing the killings of Robinson, Grant, and Lexing. Victim Stephen Robinson was shot 4 times in the rear yard of a residence in the 1500 block of Cochran Avenue in Mid-City and was transported to the hospital where he died at 1:31 a.m. Friday, March 9th. At the time, police believe he had been in a dispute with someone in the yard who shot him and then fled the scene. Victims Lexing and Grant were killed in a single incident. Grant was found dead in the front passenger seat of Lexing's car with his seatbelt still on. The driver's side door was open and the driver's seat was empty. Lexing was discovered lying face down in the gutter nearby. Grant had been shot multiple times with both .40 and .45 caliber bullets, suggesting he had been shot with 2 separate firearms. The injuries to Grant's body were consistent with him having been shot through both the passenger side window of the car and the rear of the driver's side of the car, also indicating there were 2 shooters where the locations of the casings recovered from the scene. .40 caliber casings were found in front and to the right of the car, and .45 caliber casings were located to the left and to the back of the car. Lexing had been shot once in the back as he fled. Defendant Guzman described killing 2 people and then immediately being pulled over a few blocks away, near the intersection of Overhill and Slauson, by a female sheriff's deputy. The deputy didn't know about the shooting because it had taken place outside the sheriff department's jurisdiction in LAPD territory, and the 2 agencies do not share radio calls. They hid their large guns in a hiding place inside the car shortly before they were handcuffed and placed in the patrol car. They feared the guns would be found during the search, and they knew they would be subject to the death penalty for multiple murders if they were caught, but the weapons were not located and they were allowed to leave. The same .45 caliber firearm was used in the Robinson murder in March of 2007 and the Grant and Lexing murders in July of 2007. The people moved to exclude evidence that on the night of June 10, 2007, the same weapon was fired into the home of Javier Carrillo in the 200 block of East 93rd Street, striking him. 6 .45 caliber casings were recovered from the 200 block of East 93rd Street. Firearms analysis showed the casings were fired from the same weapon that was fired at the Lexing and Grant murder scene, and therefore from the weapon used to kill Robinson. A .40 caliber firearm was used in the Lexing and Grant murders in July of 2007. The trial court excluded evidence the same .40 caliber firearm was fired in April of 2007 and that it may have been used in the pawn shop robbery in November of 2007. Specifically, a cartridge casing recovered from the pawn shop robbery was identified as potentially linked with the casings from the Lexing and Grant murders, but no confirmatory analysis was ever performed and the firearm was later destroyed. The weapon used in the pawn shop robbery was recovered in April of 2009 in conjunction with the arrest of a Rolling 60s gang member. Following the trial, the jury convicted defendant Gustavo Guzman of 3 counts of first-degree murder and sale of methamphetamine, including gun and gang enhancements. Although the prosecution sought the death penalty, the jury was unable to agree on the penalty determination, leading the court to declare a mistrial on the penalty phase. The court imposed 3 consecutive sentences of life without the possibility of parole, plus 25 years to life for the firearm enhancement. Edgar Lopez was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder and sale of methamphetamine, including gun and gang enhancements. The prosecution sought the death penalty, but the jury selected 3 sentences of life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus 25 years to life for the firearm enhancement. Stephen Robinson was 48 years old at the time of death. Eric Lexing was 26 years old at the time of death. Scott Grant was 40 years old at the time of death.